It was decent. Yo, I have a crazy battle that I had the other day against my boy David, son. He's gonna lead out with his boy Morwile as I lead off with my boy Smeargle. And I'm thinking like, you know, this is the easy sleep. So I figured that he would want to save his Mega Evolution for a little bit later on. So what I decided to do is instead of putting it to sleep right away, I decided to go for the Sticky Web. But I guess he has other ideals as he goes and activates his Mega Evolution, proving to me that he actually wants to stay in for another turn. So I'm thinking like, you know, maybe he wants to go for like the Swords Dance, but he goes straight for the Play Rough, knocking me down to my Focus Sash. So I'm like, you know, this is a little bit weird. I don't really understand why he let out with it. I mean, I have like things like Tyranitar, where he would actually lose the priority turn if I actually let out with it. In other words, and Smeargle too. So I finally put it to sleep. So I'm like, alright, let me just go out into my Tyranitar. And guess what? This dude actually wakes up on the switch and goes for the Swords Dance, no less, as if he knew that he was going to wake up that turn. So now, obviously, I cannot stay in with my Tyranitar. I'm thinking like, okay, he's going to go for the Sucker Punch. But just in case he actually does not go for the Sucker Punch and ends up going for the Play Rough, I go onto my boy Latias, because I have like the Flame Orb, so I can get the Flame Orb activated if he decides to go for the Sucker Punch, which is what he did, and then get off a nice little burn on that thing, because I can't necessarily rely on Lovely Kiss's accuracy over Psycho Shifts. So now, because he woke up first turn, I wasn't able to knock it out with the Tyranitar, and I had to sacrifice my Latias in order to inflict a burn onto it so that I would, I mean, I'm doing acrobatics. I'm doing so much acrobatics this early in the game. So now it's ideal for me to go for the King's Shield, so he predicts that and goes for the Swords Dance, and I predict him to go for that and go for an attacking move this turn instead of actually going for the King's Shield, which is pretty obvious. I made it so obvious that I would want to idealistically go for the King's Shield that I actually went for the opposite. So now I hit him with the Shadow Ball, and now I'm going to switch out back into my Smeargle so that I have a Pokemon that would idealistically want to put something to sleep after the Morwile goes for the Sucker Punch and, you know, fails and knocks itself out because of the burn. So now we're back to square one, except we're down one Pokemon because I didn't have a chance to use the offensive Latias that I have with the Psycho Shift. So he brings in a Breloom, and it kind of scares me in a sense where it's like, you know, maybe he want to go for like the Mop Punch, just in case he happens to be like that Focus Sash set. So I predict that in a sense. I thought he might want to go for like the Swords Dance and or the Spore. In a sense, more or less the Spore, because I guess it's still ideal for me to save my Smeargle for a little bit later on since I didn't go for a Rocks, and since nothing on this party right now is asleep. So I got into my boy Tyranitar just to scare it out in a sense, because I know that he's not going to want to stay in. Hence me go for the U-turn as opposed to me just locking myself onto a Flare Blitz. And he switches into Cofagrigus. Now, I don't know if a lot of players do know this, but if you do a physical or a contact move on Cofagrigus and you happen to switch out and come back in, your original ability will be reinstated once you come back in. So you don't have to worry about having the Mummy ability onto whatever Pokemon inflicted the physical damage onto the Cofagrigus for the remainder of the battle. So now I'm going to bring in my Tyranitar because I want to kind of go this thing into going for Will-O-Wisp. I'm trying to insinuate me going for the Crunch. I don't carry the Crunch, but that's part of the plan because I want to bring in Cofagrigus. I'm sorry, bring in Tyranitar, and then afterwards switch into my Conkeldurr. Now this battle actually is pretty funny because I've started to use Hariyama a lot more than Conkeldurr because Hariyama takes special attacks better than Conkeldurr, but at the same time, like they do say in the game Lightning Returns that I just beat, oh my god, this game was awesome. But let me get to the point. Like they do say in that game, every miracle comes with a price, as Hariyama has a lower base attack and a lower base defense stat than Conkeldurr does. It's still, I guess, operates the same way because you still have Guts, you still have Assault Vest, but at the same time you also have Cross Chop on Hariyama because you can't necessarily rely on close combat because it defeats the purpose of having close combat with the special defense drops and the Assault Vest at the same time, because I mean you're using the Assault Vest to get an increase in the special defense and then you're just like dwindling away with the close combat. But anyway, let's just go back with the battle. He is gonna continuously go for the Claim Split as well as going for the Destiny Bond. Now I don't want to finish this thing off right away because he is using Destiny Bond, and I do remember that he also has Tyranitar as well as a Breloom that hasn't taken any damage as of yet. So I want to get off my rocks as soon as possible, which is great. I don't care at this point if Tyranitar does get the burn inflicted onto it, because the whole point of when Cofagrigus was in play was for me to use Tyranitar as a go-between to switch out into Conkeldurr, inflict the burn onto it to activate his Gust ability, and then afterwards use Tyranitar in order to kill the Cofagrigus so that I don't have to worry about Cofagrigus inflicting any damage and or support moves on the rest of my team on anybody else, because that's the worst thing. Tyranitar is the best Pokemon to take this thing out right now. And I'm continuously using the Pursuit so that if he decides to come back in, he won't be able to survive the Stealth Rock damage, and at the same time, the double down will ensure me a clean slate to switch out into the Tyranitar. So that's actually pretty great there. My Tyranitar happens to be a banded. It's not choice banded. I think I mentioned this before that it is muscle banded. So I'm actually able to switch between moves. So that was actually great. I kind of want to bring this in and insinuate that I am choice in some shape or form, but he brings in the Rotom, so I'm like, okay, I got a U-turn out of here. What I did not expect, however, was his Rotom to outspeed me. So he must be timid, and also, judging from that damage output, must be also choice spec. So wow, that is wow, I gotta deal with that thing. So I'm just gonna U-turn out right now. He brings back into Porygon 2, or actually bringing in Porygon 2 for the first time ever. So I'm just gonna switch out into my Conkeldurr because I noticed that he has this. He has Rotom, a Sleeping Breloom, and I think a Tyranitar. Nothing can really take a Drain Punch, so I guess he's forced to stay in here. And I outspeed thanks because of the support of the Sticky Web. I actually did not expect to one-shot this thing because I know these things carry Evalite, tend to be bald. So I mean, wow, that's bananas, ladies and gentlemen. So now he's gonna bring the Tyranitar, and I'm a little bit wary about whether a guts boosted adamant fully freaking monstrous Bob the Builder type Mach Punch will be able to destroy a Tyranitar after only taking 1 damage output from the Stealth Rock. So I'm just going to switch into my Tyranitar. I'm sorry, switch into my Smeargle. I do have Tyranitar, but I'm going to switch into my Smeargle because that's the best thing I can do at the moment. And then switch into Aegislash. Now with Aegislash, I can't afford to be iffy. Like, let's say for instance that he decides to predict me to not go for the King Shield. I mean, because King Shield is super obvious at this point, and then actually go for the Flare Blitz. That's my Aegislash right there. That's my whole thing right there. So now I'm gonna be able to go for Shadow Ball because I knew that he was gonna want to go for the trick. Hence to switch out into Rotom. I'm supposed to like Breloom or something like that. So like I'll go for the Shadow Ball and knock it out because I'm choice specs. Now I do have Tyranitar and Conkeldurr left over as well as my own Aegislash. So what I'm gonna decide to do is after the Tyranitar comes back into play, because I'm still wary about whether a Mach Punch, despite that I am guts boosted, will be able to finish off the Tyranitar. At that point, decide to keep in my Aegislash so that I can just accumulate some recoil on the Tyranitar. So now I'm pretty sure that this thing would be able to destroy it, and since Breloom is asleep, I'm going to be able to claim good game here. You know, so that's great, and plus I have the Sticky Web, I have the Stealth Rock, so Breloom's not surviving with the Focus Sash or anything like that, so I can just like kill this clown with the Ice Punch and or Drain Punch, and Breloom is asleep on the job, just like they would say on the Pokemon Stadium 1, but look! What the hell? He wakes up and on top of it goes for the substitute. Not even like the Bullet Seed or anything like that, but I cannot believe, I'm so astounded at the fact that he was able to wake up so soon again. Wasn't it like the first freaking turn? The second, no, it was the third turn that he woke up on the switch and he's gonna go for the Bullet Seed. And of course, the game does not, I mean, obviously there's a lower probability for him to get like 2 as opposed to getting 3, 4, or 5 hits with the Bullet Seed, but at the same time, come on, son. And then Tyranitar comes back in, obviously not fully equipped in order to take a Mach Punch, and he's gonna claim a narrow salty 1-0. So that's a great game, definitely had a lot of fun. Peace. What you doing?